Hi everybody, welcome to Environmental Science. I'm going to recap what we've been doing over the first 3 days of class really quick in this video for anybody who feels a little bit behind or lost, or if you missed a day and you want to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to. So this is Environmental Studies. It is a high school elective class for a science elective. So it's going to be a little bit faster paced and a little bit more rigorous and taught a little more like a high school course. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and the main resource for this class, just like pretty much all your other classes, I think, is going to be Canvas. So I always encourage every student to be following along in Canvas. You have to in some cases. So I'm going to go to my environmental science course. Here is what the homepage looks like with a slight description of what we study in this class, and you get to the live lesson by clicking here, and I'm pretty sure I've met with everybody already. So this recorded lessons button is where you're going to get a link to this YouTube channel where you can catch up on any day of class that you missed. Class resources is currently empty. I don't have anything listed there yet, but current lesson brings you to the module. The most recent module is always at the top, so I'm going to start with Thursday's module. So this was Thursday, July 30th, the first day of school, and I'm going to work my way up. We always start class with a warm-up. You'll notice that the first activity in each module is a warm-up. So this is typically a Google form with a few questions that is a review of the previous class or a preview for the current class. And on Thursday, it was just an About You form. So this is extremely helpful for me. I love reading your responses to this. So take your time to fill this out and give me as much detail as you feel comfortable giving me. We have a few welcome slides that talks about just generally what to expect in the class. If you need any special supplies, which you don't really, you need occasionally some paper. I'll ask you to draw things and write things down. So paper, something to write with, maybe something to color with, like colored pencils or markers. But that's about it. Everything else we're gonna do in Google, in your Google Drive in terms of notes, projects will be a lot of research. So most things will be contained to your computer or your Chromebook. In class on the first day, we did a lot, kind of critical thinking activity that was, what do you think is included in the Earth? So when we talk about planet Earth, of course, our environment is all a part of our planet. So my big warm up for the course is what is considered to be a part of planet Earth? Where does Earth end and space begin? And then your first homework assignment was this current events article and response. So this is important for you to read because homework is, a good way to keep your grade high and get all the participation points that you deserve. So this is an article from Newsela that is about the career of bird watching, which of course has everything to do with environmental studies. This is a type of environmental study. And at the end of the article, you are to reply to what you read, and your directions are up here in blue. So I just want to point out that you're responding today with your opinion on the topic of the article, which can be just anything that you think while you were reading this article. But your post should be in complete sentence, grammatically correct, and represent your best writing. So I'm not necessarily looking for a long response when I ask you to do reading responses, but I am looking for a good quality response. Okay, so good ideas that are expressed clearly and well organized. But that could mean that it's only 2 sentences long, and that is fine. 2 to 5 sentences is all I ever really expect for these short reading responses. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the module, and that wraps up what we did on day 1. On the second day of class, which was Monday, August 3rd, the main topic on Monday, August 3rd was the 4 spheres of Earth. So the idea that the Earth can be divided up into 4 interacting yet separate systems. So we spent a little, again, we did a warm up. We spent a little time in our Google Drives getting organized. So If you missed this day and you missed this step, I highly encourage that you go to the ES folder, Google Drive assignment, and this page gives you step-by-step directions with pictures on how to create your environmental science folder. I also offer time during my office hours after class, walking through students one-on-one if you're having issues getting used to organizing your Google Drive. We did a word cloud, which was an activity where you think of 5 words that pop to mind when you hear the phrase environment. So what is included in the environment? We did a word cloud in class where every student contributed at least 5 words, and then a collage of words was created that made the most common ideas big and center. And the most common ideas ended up being water and air and things like plants and trees and things like that. And then we get down into the 4 systems of Earth. So this section contains a couple of videos that describe the idea that the Earth has 4 spheres, 4 separate systems that work together. And this page is a note taker. So this page is really the meat and potatoes of this day's lesson, because it has not just a link to the notes, which is a Google document that you have to copy and put into your own Google folder, but it also contains all the slideshow that I used for the day. And this contains good information about each one of those spheres. And the 4 spheres are the geosphere, sometimes called the lithosphere. That is the solid parts of the Earth, including the inside of the Earth and the soil. The atmosphere, which is all the gas around the Earth. So the thin layer of gases that forms our air is the atmosphere. And this is a diagram showing you all of the gases that make up the atmosphere and how much of them there are. We also have the hydrosphere, and hydro, of course, refers to water. So there is all of the water in the water cycle, including oceans, clouds, precipitation, lakes, rivers, and streams, even ice. And finally, we have the biosphere, which are all the living things on Earth, including everything that lives in the sea, plants, things that fly in the sky, things that live on the land, and things that live under the land or in the soil, like microscopic organisms, including dead plants and animals. So even though things are no longer living, doesn't mean that they stop being part of the biosphere. So bio refers to life, all the living things. For homework on day 2, we had another document. So this is homework, Earth-Mars comparison. And the idea was to research Mars, and specifically to research Mars's geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and compare. In what ways are they similar to Earth? In what ways are they different from Earth? And then to think about, what would it take for humans to live on the planet Mars long term, meaning for entire lifetimes or even generations. And then that brings us to Wednesday, August 5th. This was today's activity. Our topic today, we focused on the geosphere. As you can see, there's a lot of the word geosphere around here. So we were talking about rocks and minerals and plate tectonics and a lot of topics that were covered in 7th grade science, and specifically focusing on how the geosphere, even though rocks seem pretty non-living and non-changing, that they actually are incredibly, they change throughout long periods of time. And the geosphere can even change quickly in short periods of time. For example, earthquakes, volcanoes, maybe erosion that quickly changes an area. So we had a warm up, a couple of questions. We did an in-class breakout room discussion where we talked about the answers to the homework that people researched. we watched a video on the geosphere, which was a very informative video, and this is a good one. If you didn't watch the other videos, do watch this video. It does a great job. And then just like in the last module, we copied some notes. So again, there are instructions to click on the notes and then make a copy of the notes for yourself. Otherwise, we'd all be sharing one document, and that's not fun. And in the next section, this is the slideshow. So I always teach from, I post the things, the slideshows that I'm using on the module. If I go too fast, you can always slow things down and look at what you need to look at on your own screen. So this slideshow contains a lot of text, and it's mostly talking about how there are changes. So like I already said, a couple of the changes are things caused by plate tectonics, so volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, new mountains forming, new islands forming, old crust being destroyed because those plates are moving. And of course, there's a never-ending rock cycle that's constantly destroying and creating new rocks. Rocks are melted and renewed and turned into brand new rocks, and they're eroded and they're formed in places all over the earth constantly. So that was a summary of today's lesson. Finally, there was a homework assignment that has to be done outside of class because it requires you to go outside of your house into nature, or to even just look around your house. Maybe you're like me and you actually have some examples of the geosphere inside. You don't have to. Everybody can go outside their house, apartment, wherever you live, and search on the ground, in the soil, for examples that represent the geosphere. And I'm asking you for 3 examples of the geosphere. So 3 different rocks, maybe some soil samples, some gravel, anything that you can find that is an example of the geosphere. And in our next class, that's what we're going to start with, kind of doing a little show and tell. So you do have to bring those things to your next class. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in environmental science.